Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Control Haven. Control Haven has been doing a pretty okay job of handling more aggro focused decks, in particular aggro sword, by clearing large boards with a lot of removal and a lot of healing. It does a decent job of sustaining itself, which is not too bad in the current meta. I've personally had about a 50-50 win with this so far. I only messed around with it for about 10 games. Had a little bit of a struggle against some of the more late game decks like Rune and Dragon here and there, but overall still performs really nicely and is still not on the cheaper side legendaries wise. I mean, we are still running 3 Water, 3 Jane, and a Ruler of Cocytus. And Ruler of Cocytus is like your primary win con, it feels like. Lapis is also extremely good. Being able to recur itself with Storm is quite nice. But otherwise you really are just holding on the fort, going for draw cards, ward cards, heal cards. Really the only problem I have with this deck so far is that it is very heavy on evo effects. Pretty much everything wants to evo for some purpose and try and give you some advantage out of it. Personally, I mostly find myself using things like the heal effects, which are really nice, some board clear effects. Only running 1 Iron Priest. I think any more than that is probably too bricky given that it doesn't have a base effect. And then Recurrence in the Guardian of Earth is quite nice too. This thing actually will resummon your Unholy Vessel, which is really good given that it's your board clear. So the main combo I like to try and pull off with this deck is to stick an Unholy Vessel to a board, have it there, and then when they do stuff, like say we drop this turn 6, turn 7, it sticks on board for a little bit, then we could easily clear their whole board and then play Lapis. And that just gives us a free turn to play Lapis or Cocytus or something in follow-up, which works really nicely. So we are going to get right into it and check the deck out. Alright, starting us off here, we do have a Dragon matchup. It's going to kick us off quite nicely here. Dragon can typically be one of the more 50-50 matchups, for sure, since they do like to get to late game themselves, and our deck doesn't really do anything substantial early. We do end up going for the Serene Sanctity. I do have to be pretty careful with those. It's very easy to accidentally overdraw yourself. But they are typically a pretty early game play. Do end up going for the Greedy Cherub, which actually isn't a bad card to combo with Cocytus as well. If you can get a Cocytus to stick, being able to use Cherub to potentially throw cards back in deck and redraw can get you some of the nice Cocytus cards. So this is a more aggro-y focused Dragon deck. It's got a lot more low-end followers, which I'm 50-50 on these, honestly, because like an aggro Dragon isn't necessarily bad, but I definitely prefer big like ramp dragons more. We end up with a Dose and a Sanctuary. We end up being able to use the Dose to kill off the 1-1, mainly because we're trying to avoid it giving an Evo. If it gains an Evo, it's going to be more of a problem to deal with long term. Plus they can chip more damage in. And we're just trying to make it to turn 6, ideally. I end up going for Water, mostly because it's a pretty easy Evo here. Unfortunately, it would require a full trade-off, which is a little sad. But we get a full wipe, we get a heal 3. I think it was worth the Evo. Especially when, like I said, we're setting up Unholy next turn. They end up just passing turn 6. I guess they just didn't have any cards to play, which isn't super uncommon for Dragon. Not having a 6-drop, or not wanting to use your extra play point as well, that can also occur. So you don't end up with too much here, so I end up just setting up a second Unholy Vessel, clearing off their Super Evolve before I can get too much value. From here, though, I do start running into a little bit of a problem. I really wanted to get Lapis on board, but with just 6 health remaining, I am in lethal range. So I end up just taking the risk, because I don't think I really had too much of a way to heal outside of Evoing. I just said, hey, I'll give it to you. If you have it, you have it. Plus, they'd already spent both Super Evolves, so the only real threat was that they had the one of the 2 big guys that could hit me. Then I go for the Jane. Jane's pretty good, even on her own. She's just a 6 damage kill, like everything kind of card. They end up going for the Twilight, which is fine. We get the Lap, we go for a Jane. This time, we're going to have to use our Super Evo here to actually get some value out of it. But that is going to do half their health, getting 10 damage off the Lapis. I do like Seraph, like, Lapis is great. Like, being able to do damage, recur, and stick around is really nice. It's a real good sticking card for sure. It's just I don't get to pull it off quite as much as I would like. We end up going for water here, finally going for some heal. It also allows us to easily clear the 11 too, so. And then we just set up a couple of ward as well. And try to dig a little bit deeper in our deck. We just need 10 damage. Lapis will summon itself, which is good. And we do need a way to remove that Forte, unfortunately.
Without suffering, there is no glory.
But they do end up just conceding. Interesting choice, because I don't think I had lethal here. At least not an obvious lethal. Following on from that match, our next one is going to be against a Runecraft deck. Runecraft has got a lot more interesting, I think, now, honestly. We're seeing a lot more of the Cocytus variants pop up for spell boost, which I actually find pretty cool. Definitely will be making a video on that in the near future. But yeah, I think out of all the videos I've done so far for decks, this Control Haven deck is probably on the weaker side, for sure. I still don't think it's bad, I just think it's not really got enough in it. Like, the only things that are really good is the Cocytus and the Lapis. Everything else is just basically removal or healing. Which, I mean, does the job in the early meta, but probably won't retain it much come first expansion. Or once people kind of work out how to play around things a little bit more. And we end up just taking advantage of this, getting an extra engage. And then killing off the 2-2 and evoing the Bellringer, because getting any damage here is fine. Plus, Bellringer gives us an extra draw off it. Can't be too upset by that. Starry-Eyed Penguin gets play. Honestly, the biggest threat is the Cocytus one turn. You really do have to be kind of careful about it, because they could very easily dimensional climb with Cocytus. And that just allows them to kill you with Azeroth. Which is a crazy combination of cards. Honestly, like Super Evolve Azeroth. Like, you can just hit them for one and they die. Alright, Havencraft. Kind of annoying, but not too much trouble here. I want to avoid having to use the Unholy if I can, but doesn't look like we get the opportunity, unfortunately. There just wasn't enough options. Like I said, this deck is very, like, Evo heavy. They've seen one Unholy, and now they start going a little bit wider, throwing down their big drops. I decided I'm just going to play off our Silver here, Guardian. Mostly because, yeah, Super Evolving allows me to free trade, get 1 damage on them, and set up potentially for another Unholy. Which I think is more than enough. They don't really end up doing too much more here, which is good. But we end up just drawing another Unholy as well, so I end up just using the one we had, playing another one, and going for Bellringer. We're really just digging for cards at this point and then holding off until we can get something we can actually use. That's why we end up just digging even deeper. We end up just going wide. William, they're going to go for a clear. We end up getting a Jane. Not really useful now, since we haven't been able to stick a board. And we end up actually burning the only card I need. This is why you have to be careful with Serene and stuff, because you can end up overdrawing yourself pretty easily. So really unfortunate. Luckily though, we do end up finding the Cocytus. So that actually gives us a play we can use, especially on the back of Chalice on board. They end up evolving the Kun, getting the 10 drop, allowing them to hit me for 10. It's a little bit of a problem. And I have to be careful now because I could potentially just die. So I do decide to go for healing here to avoid getting double Kunned. I would have loved to have just dropped Cocytus, but I just can't afford to take that risk because double Kun is a very real possibility here.
Special assignment today.
We really want them to be forced into having to use the Evo point. Fortunately, Jane coming down here works well to clearing this up. Nothing over 6 health. Probably should have played the 2-2. Well, sorry, the 2 cost ward first. Would have at least then got the boost, which would have made it a little bit bigger. Not that it would have mattered because they would have just killed it with the storm anyway. Ruler of Cocytus finally finds an opportunity to hit the board. Leaving up the 2-2 because I know that even with a Kun here, they're only going to pull off 12 damage. Meaning I'm not too threatened by this. But they do end up going Dimensional Climb. Again, like I said, not too threatening. There's not a lot of ways they could get 2 damage here off Dimensional Climb. So we're only really concerned about what we can do next turn. And they've had to use the Super Evolution Point here to give it Storm, so now they're out of those as well. Leaving us with the only real thing we have to do here is clear and heal. Which honestly we don't end up getting anything super useful to do that with, unfortunately. But with the extra play point we have, luckily, we can also drop our other legendary for healing. And then Grey come down again. We got pretty lucky, honestly, because being on 1 health was definitely a risk. But they are going to really struggle to stick anything to board now, and we're trying to set up lethal with any of these demon cards from the Apocalypse deck. So Demon of Purgatory allows us to full clear. Cherub allows us to just kind of throw it away and search for something else. End up getting a Servant of Cocytus, which actually is pretty good. 1 drop 13-13. Does force out more removal. And even their Storm wasn't enough to solo kill it. And we're sitting in the back line with a Silent Rider, so we basically just need anything to live here. And then we can pretty much run them over with the Silent Rider. But, turns out, they end up just decking themselves out, which totally worth it for us. Dimensional Climb ends up eating too many cards. Alright, and our final match for this video is going to be Forestcraft. I haven't actually spotlighted a Forest deck yet, I don't think. Looking at it, like, this Forest matchups are really uncommon. It's not something I end up playing against often. Most of the meta that I come across are Dragon, Rune, Portal, or... that's about it. Sword as well, I guess, sorry. I forgot about Sword. Any of those 4 are pretty popular. So we start off with a very standard play again. We just go for the Serene early. We end up just throwing the 2-drop down the board. Not really looking to do too much here other than develop so that they can't just spam us with fairies. Which is what they're definitely looking to do. Fortunately, not a lot going on in our hand, so we do end up just getting the draw 2 and then throwing a Bellringer down. We have the Divine removal, we have the Apollo removal, we have the Iron Fist removal. Like, we're in a pretty nice spot. You know, with the second Apollo. Fortunately, the Haven deck has a lot of like nice 1-1 removal. And we're definitely not hurting on what we have. So we're able to avoid taking any damage early on. Godwood Staff, a little bit of a problem card. Not too bad though. We end up looking for the Unholy there. We end up sending back the Radiant. Just trying to develop again more boards presence. We're going to try and get some damage in early since they're not really doing anything too substantial. They end up evolving the Glade, wiping our board. Divine Thunder was really the only option I think if I wanted an easy clear. Fortunately, we've still got plenty of removal, so I'm not too worried. Fairies getting rushed kind of hurt though, hey? Like, they can easily take stuff out. Really not a lot going on with this deck right now. Not until we can find our end game. We've shown off a lot of what this deck already does, and now it's really just a matter of getting to what we need. So we have the Bellringer, we have the Unholy, we have the Jean. Like, we have so many good removal cards, so many good ward cards. We just need one of our 2 kind of endgame cards. If we can find either of our endgame cards here, it would be a pretty easy clean sweep. Because all we need to do is find the Seraph or find the Cocytus. We're looking to draw as many cards as we can to get there. Which, I mean, kind of working. They end up just going wide again and then buffing. And we end up finding Cocytus, which is awesome. Pretty much couldn't get more perfect there. And a really nice setup for the Iron Fist Priest with Super Evolve. Being able to just wipe out their entire board with Banish, really not an issue for us. And we even set up the draw so that when we do pop Cocytus, we've got extra draw on our board. So they do end up having to invest quite a bit here. I mean, throwing away their 1/3 to actually shrink that down, the only real choice they had. It does just let me drop Cocytus to the board. I end up just normal evolving Cocytus since it's only going to take 1 damage. I didn't see it as being too impactful, and wasting the Super Evolve just didn't feel good there. Not when I could potentially Super Evolve Azeroth on, you know, one of our lower stuff and hit a ward maybe. Definitely have options, which was nice. So as you can see here, they're throwing as many fairies against the wall here as they can to try and kill off the Cocytus. Basically investing their entire hand into removing our 1 card. Which is great for us, because it means anything from now on, we are at a huge advantage. So we end up getting a Servant. Not exactly the most useful card, but it'll definitely do the job. Because they have no cards in hand, they're going to draw 1 card, and they got to hope they can get something. But obviously not, they end up conceding. So overall, I found this deck reasonably straightforward. It's not super complicated. You are basically just stalling out your early game with removal, ward, board clears, healing. And then you get to your late game, your Lapis, your Cocytus. You end up using those 2 the most so that you can do anything with your deck. Because a lot of the other stuff is just small chip damage and not very impactful as far as actually hitting the face. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You'll find the deck list in the description below. And until next time, guys, see you then.